but it's fucking wild. It's horrifying. I cannot believe that this woman, Cindi Bi, you know what this is? This speaks to the narcissism of these tech venture capitalists, just rich fucks who are so evil, but rather than keeping that evil a secret, they go to a publication like Wired and talk about how evil they are because they don't see it as evil. No. This is going to be brutal. Yes. Cindi Bi is not supposed to be telling me this story. First, there's the confidentiality clause. When B, a venture capitalist who claims to have invested in a dozen unicorns, hired a surrogate to carry her only male embryo in 2023, both parties agreed to keep the details private and away from the media. Then there's the restraining order against B, followed by a court-ordered agreement saying she would not so much as mention the surrogate involved in baby Leon's stillbirth. Finally, there are social norms to consider when publicly attacking the woman who says she almost died carrying your child. I'm going to guess that Cindi Bi doesn't care about any of those things, and that's why she's talking to this reporter. Still, B is talking to me. She sends me a nearly 3,000 item folder filled with legal filings, reports to professional organizations, insurance companies, employers, and the police, emails with her attorneys, and correspondence between her and the egg whisperer influencer, Dr. Amy. Kill me. B considers herself a whistleblower out to protect unborn children via surrogacy. Her website invokes scripture, establish justice in the courts, Amos 5:15. Indeed, B has racked up nearly $1 million in legal bills since 2024 in what she views as a fight to honor her son. I want the surrogate to be known for what she did, to be set as an example. I hope she goes to jail, ideally for murder. Oh yeah, no, this woman is, first of all, I need you to understand, this woman is terrible, obviously, but she does not exist in a vacuum. She is not uniquely evil in this world of wealthy tech venture capitalists who think this way, who utilize vulnerable women, who exploit them and use them as baby carriers. Like we'll get into talking about the issues in the commercial surrogacy industry, but essentially in the United States of America, whereas commercial surrogacy has been banned in other countries, because so many wealthy people, especially people like in this world, use surrogates, it is an industry that has remained pretty unregulated. Like there are not laws to protect the women who are surrogates. And that is because of who primarily is utilizing surrogates. American surrogacy is an enormous industry, taking in approximately $5 billion in 2024, and the practice is expected to explode globally almost tenfold in the next decade. It seems especially popular in Silicon Valley, where a growing cadre of investors and executives, from OpenAI's Sam Altman to Dropbox's Drew Houston, have used it to grow their families. More than a dozen big tech companies provide 5-figure subsidies to any employee who needs or wants to outsource gestational labor. A shocking number of techies now believe growing a baby can be a straightforward business transaction. But intended parents and gestational carriers, IPs and GCs, as they're somewhat dehumanizingly known, and that's a big part of it too, is the dehumanization. They don't see these women as humans. They do not care about them. They do not care about their health. They do not care about their rights. They literally view them as incubators for babies. It is just something that you could like go to the store and buy. They literally refer to them as GCs. Are often uninformed about the dearth of regulation and completely unprepared for what can go wrong. Only one state, New York, requires agencies to be licensed. Only one fucking state in the United States requires surrogacy agencies to be licensed. Although America is the world leader in surrogacy, it's also the developed nation with the highest maternal mortality rate and one of the highest stillbirth rates, a situation described by many as a public health crisis. And of course, say you are a black woman, though, your risks, your health risks because of the racist medical system, black mothers dying at 4 times the rate in childbirth, for for a country that is as rich and developed as the US is, when it comes to how high our maternal mortality rate, especially if you are a black woman, it's disgusting. Like, it's so unacceptable. Compared to natural conception, carrying a genetically unrelated fetus more than triples the risk of severe, potentially deadly conditions, a statistic that surrogates are rarely given. IPs do not always have to disclose complete medical information, including histories of certain conditions that may harm their GCs. They don't have to be honest about how many kids they have, why they are hiring a surrogate, or how many other surrogates they have simultaneously pregnant. Do you really know who is carrying your child or whose child you are carrying? Look at this horrifying photo. Meanwhile, the US is torn over who controls a pregnant woman's body. Oh, you would think it's the pregnant woman, right? You would think that a pregnant woman is in charge of her body, but no. We are still debating over who is in control of a pregnant woman's body. The increasing acceptance of fetal personhood means that in many states, losing a pregnancy can be charged as a felony and potentially punished with life in prison. This is thorny enough when it's a woman's own baby. It's exponentially more fraught when the carrier isn't the parent. Many of the issues that Bi and her surrogate encountered on their journey are likely far more common than you'd ever imagine, but you haven't heard about them. They won't influence policy or case law because they tend to unfold in private, shrouded by confidentiality clauses and handled in closed arbitration proceedings. A stark power differential means that intended parents often have the means to file lawsuits and wage years-long campaigns, while surrogates who feel screwed are forced to rely on free legal help and GoFundMe. Infinite Warmth, thank you for the gifted sub. The case of Bi and her surrogate shows how, in an environment with little regulation and extreme inequality, the miracle of life can mutate into a death sentence. Cindi Bi met her future husband on April Fool's Day 2016. It was a warm Friday night at Molly McGee's, an Irish pub/discotheque in Mountain View, California. Jorge Valdeiglesias spotted Bi on the dance floor. Heart-shaped face, long black hair, snatched size 0 waist. He brought over shots of Don Julio. Bi, a Chinese immigrant and founder who'd later appear on a list of 30 of the most successful early-stage startup investors, inspected his Google badge to make sure it was real. "I'm older than you," Bi told him. She was 36 to his boyish, rumpled 28. "But it's okay. I froze my eggs." Valdeiglesias was shocked by Bi's forwardness. He was just looking for a fun night, but it worked. When she and Valdeiglesias were ready to start a family 6 years later, surrogacy was the obvious choice. At 43, Bi felt she was too old to be pregnant. She also said she was on a medication that could lead to complications. Bi did not grieve the decision. In a Facebook group for future IPs, she wrote, "I've been prepared for this for almost a decade." At first, Bi and Valdeiglesias considered implanting 2 embryos at once to have twins. Bi's fertility doctor strongly discouraged that because of risks to the baby and the surrogate. Instead, they settled on twiblings, gestated by separate women, but born a few weeks or months apart. They'd have a protective big brother and a sweet little sister, fortuitously born in the year of the dragon, the most auspicious sign of the Chinese zodiac. Brandon O, thank you for the tier 1. They signed up with a Southern California-based agency, Surrogate Alternatives, Inc. According to their psychological consult, Bi took an SSRI for PTSD spurred by work-related stressors, but hoped to wean off soon. SAI quickly matched the couple with a college-educated bank manager in Virginia. "She was perfect," Bi told me. "Tall, healthy, young, good job. I showed her off to my friends. The only thing I was concerned with was she's a single mom, but I saw past it." Rebecca Smith was a former professional athlete who became interested in surrogacy after watching a close friend struggle to conceive. Although Smith's real name is public, I'm using a pseudonym to protect her privacy. She declined to be interviewed on the record, citing the confidentiality clause and ongoing litigation. The 34-year-old wanted to help a family who couldn't carry their own child. As she put it in a Facebook post, she wanted to give them the same love that I found in becoming a mom. In her profile photos, the pale, lanky Smith, mugged in denim jackets and athleisure with her 6-year-old biracial son, whom I'll call Ellis. This will come into play. Okay. Smith had previously dated but told her psych evaluator that it doesn't work when you're a single mom. She spent her free time coaching her son's sports teams. She ran errands on weekends when Ellis was with his dad, who remained a good friend. She was the type of person who preferred cooking at home to eating out, who made sure to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Ellis was an almost 10-pound baby. The pregnancy had been unremarkable, but for the fact, perhaps, that her belly hadn't shown until she was 7 months along. And this is something that happens when, if you are a taller woman, the baby is growing vertically. There's just more space to grow. So a lot of times, like, you'll see models, you'll see really, really tall women who don't show as early as shorter women will. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because this will also come into play. Smith signed up with SAI, a well-regarded agency founded by a surrogate more than 2 decades earlier. Yes, also, if your abs are tighter when your pregnancy starts, it takes longer to show. There's just a lot of there's a lot of reasons as to why women's bellies don't show at the same time. Like, it's not a one size, it's not like every single person who's pregnant has the same pregnancy. She liked that it offered its GCs numerous safeguards. IPs went through thorough vetting, including psychological screening, and all had a medical reason for pursuing surrogacy. A detailed contract between the GC and the IPs would dictate the terms. A third-party escrow would hold the money and pay Smith. She'd get allowances and reimbursements for housekeeping and maternity clothes. If Smith had to be hospitalized or miss work, she'd receive payments for lost wages and childcare. Also, Smith's employer provided insurance would treat the pregnancy as if it were her own baby, a major boon. Now, let me be clear that one massive issue, and I'm sure this will come up in the piece, is that there are there's no protections for surrogates. So when medical issues arise, which there is more of a risk for issues with surrogacy, guess who has to cover those? Most surrogates are not in a position like this where their employer provided insurance is treating this pregnancy as if it's their own. So what happens is surrogates are on the hook for covering extraneous medical bills that were unexpected. Although directly paying a woman to carry your child is technically illegal in Virginia, Smith's contract specified that all payments were reimbursements. She planned to use the $45,000 reimbursement to pay off her student loans and build an emergency fund. Smith met Bi and Valdiglesias in a standard video call facilitated by SAI. In her psychological evaluation, Smith seems smitten with the couple, calling them amazing. The therapist wrote she feels they are 100% compatible. In the summer of 2023, Smith and Ellis flew out to San Francisco for the embryo transfer. Bi put them up in a nice hotel for 12 days close to her apartment and planned a detailed sightseeing itinerary. Smith didn't even request reimbursement for her lost wages. A doctor implanted Bi and Valdiglesias' only male embryo inside of Smith. Everyone was elated when it stuck. Bi asked Smith for permission to share a photo of the test result on Facebook, and Smith quickly agreed, inviting Bi to tag her. Bi and Smith texted all the time. Smith shared her happy nausea and impressions of baby Leon. Bi detailed her constant travels and her search for a second GC. Smith tried to recruit her own sister for the job, then a coworker. When scary but benign early bleeding brought Smith to the ER, Bi sent her a DoorDash gift card. Oh, God. Oh, wow. You're bleeding to the point you have to go to the emergency room. Here, get yourself some cookies off DoorDash. Do not become friends with someone who has this level of financial control over you. Yes, yes, yes. Do not do this. Like, you can already see how this is going to be set up for fucking disaster. But in the wake of the bleeding, Smith found something out. B had been posting about Smith's health in Facebook groups, sharing test results and crowdsourcing suggestions for her treatment. B didn't refer to Smith by name, but included distinctive details that allowed members of the tight-knit community to identify her, which violated their contract. Smith alerted SAI but didn't confront B, perhaps calculating that it was better not to risk tainting their rapport. After all, the surrogacy relationship was unlike almost any other. Once you were pregnant, there was no going back. A new human had to be created. Brainiac, thank you for the 21 months. In late 2023, a little more than halfway through the pregnancy, B got a Facebook comment that scared her. She had posted about Smith getting a new, better job, the COO of Art Risk Solutions, an insurance agency. She had posted about Smith getting a new, better job. The COO of Art Risk Solutions, an insurance agency, replied, suggesting that B double-check whether Smith's new policy would cover the pregnancy. Outreach like this wasn't uncommon. The Facebook groups often teamed with industry professionals peddling their wares. The Art Risk COO offered to take a look into it. While SAI's standard process had determined that Smith's new insurance would cover the pregnancy, Art Risk disagreed. B was spooked by what she saw as SAI's oversight on a major issue. Pregnancy complications could rack up 5 or 6-figure bills. To B, the people she had paid to ensure her only son's healthy birth seemed to sleep at the wheel. Since B alleged that SAI had made a mistake, she demanded they pay for Smith's backup insurance policy. When it stood by its assessment and refused, B was irate. Thank you for covering this, of course. She began posting about SAI, sometimes multiple times a day, to warn other IPs. Sometimes she said that Smith had told her about the job change. Other times she claimed that Smith hadn't notified her. She didn't want to burden Smith. It's not your fault, she assured Smith, trying to protect her from the stress while keeping her in the loop. It seemed like they were on the same page. I just hate that it all happened, Smith texted B. I was so excited thinking the new job was surrogate friendly. B was sure that if Smith had known otherwise, she wouldn't have taken the job. It wasn't about the money. Smith's new subsidized Affordable Care Act plan at $391 a month was a drop in the bucket compared to the estimated $200,000 that B had budgeted for the pregnancy. B told Smith that they would lay low until Leon was born and then go after SAI. I want to show them what justice should look like. Oh boy. On December 15th, a day on which B sent her more than 50 texts about the insurance, Smith felt liquid between her legs. She was 26 weeks pregnant and afraid that her water had broken. The emergency room sent her home, telling her it wasn't amniotic fluid. She should have been relieved, but she soon had another text from B. One of B's lawyers wanted Smith to sign a few forms. Smith had already signed a power of attorney giving B and Valdeglesias the ability to make decisions for Leon. Were they now asking for control over her body? B declined multiple requests to show me the forms in question. Smith confronted B gently. I guess I'm a little confused, she said. B and Valdeglesias hadn't been calling into any of the prenatal appointments where they could ask questions. What's changed? Well, after your ER visit, I have tons of questions, B replied. For example, was it due to the stress of Friday's insurance discussion? If not, what can we do to prevent such episodes so the baby can grow to full term? By this point, V and Valdeglesias had found a second GC for Leon's younger sister, and that process, B told Smith, was going much more smoothly. That day, Smith was back at the clinic for follow-ups on the leaking. She had already started taking precautions, sleeping on her left side and drinking a gallon of water a day. Again, they told her it wasn't amniotic fluid and that stress might have been a contributor. Pallarese, thank you for the tier 1. On January 1st, 2024, 29 weeks pregnant, Smith texted B that she was in the ER again. This time, doctors confirmed that her water had broken. Smith was admitted to the hospital for IV antibiotics, monitoring, and steroids to help develop the baby's lungs. She was to stay there until Leon was born. B and Valdeglesias had just celebrated New Year's Eve in New York City. A few days later, B ordered Smith a tower of boxes from Amazon. Coconut water, fried street cantaloupe slices. But B also pestered Smith with questions. Well, why was she in the hospital instead of just on bed rest at home? Was she submitting lost wage requests? Meanwhile, on Facebook, B claimed that Smith had broken their contract by not notifying her before changing jobs. A breach claim was serious. It meant that Smith was on the hook for any bills that insurance didn't cover, potentially $1 million plus sums that B acknowledged could bankrupt Smith. Technically, Smith had notified them. She had a text from Valdeglesias congratulating her. The situation reveals one of the fundamental imbalances of surrogacy. When a surrogate breaks contract, her IPs can stop paying her and stop paying the medical bills for her pregnancy. But if an IP breaks contract, say by sharing their GC's private information online or withholding compensation, a GC typically has to hire a lawyer. No matter what, IPs get the baby at the end. Anything else would be considered baby selling and human trafficking. B started to believe that something was wrong with Leon because of photos that Smith posted. She looked slim, despite being months along. "You hardly look pregnant," a commenter wrote approvingly. To B, this wasn't a compliment. Everyone knew that pregnant women had big bellies. This is why I brought up earlier that depending on your genetics, like say you're tall, say like depending on what shape you're in, you may not be showing until like really late in the game. Some women show really early, some women do not. That's how it goes. But not according to B, who has never carried a child herself. A few days into Smith's hospitalization, B got news that seemed to push her over the edge. Smith phrased it like it was a good thing. Despite the premature rupture of membranes, her doctor had told her that Leon was healthy, and a growth scan estimated that he was in the 30th percentile. That didn't sound right. The 30th percentile meant most babies measured bigger than Leon. Smith was tall. Shouldn't that make a bigger baby, B wondered? She had expected her son to be above average in all things. It's not her embryo. Oh my God. Smith maintained that the doctor told her everything looked great. But B's motherly intuition was going off. Something didn't seem right with her son. And let me just remind you that this is not the journalist writing these things. Like, this is B telling her things like, my motherly intuition was going off. What motherly intuition? Something didn't seem right with her son. She pressed on. Was Smith eating enough? Had she gained enough weight? Small belly by itself, I brushed off. B wrote, but 30th, water leak, small belly, is Leon being suffocated and become defective already? Since B did not have Leon in her body where she could protect him and keep him safe, she had to do everything she could from across the country. So she turned to Facebook groups and Google for second, third, and fourth opinions. On January 13th, yeah, also defective. What a word. Defective makes so much sense that somebody like this woman would use that word. Like it's a product. Like she is buying a product. That's what this is all about. Is the product defective? What have I paid my money for? What have I paid good money for? For a broken product? So, okay. She turned to Facebook groups and Google. On January 13th, B emailed SAI asking for copies of Smith's medical records. B, a direct communicator who prided herself on her candor, asked her husband if she was out of line. Valdeglesias assured her she wasn't. You're just caring for your baby, he said, just like what any other mother would do. The hardest part of being hospitalized, Smith told B, was saying goodbye to her son, who cried whenever she had to leave. B had suggested that Ellis could stay in the hospital. Ellis spent the night just twice in those weeks, sleeping on the recliner meant for new parents. On one of those mornings, January 21st, Smith woke up in the same room as her sweet, protective, now 7-year-old son. Nurses came in and did morning monitoring. Leon had no heartbeat. When B got the Facebook message from an unknown woman, she thought it was a prank. Call the hospital ASAP, the woman wrote. It was Smith's sister. This is an emergency. B recorded her conversation with the hospital. The doctor gave her condolences. She thought she had seen a flicker in one of Leon's heart valves and so rushed Smith into an emergency C-section. But Leon was already dead. The placenta had separated from Smith's uterine wall, depriving Leon of oxygen. Typically, that leads to vaginal bleeding, the doctor explains, which is why she had not been having. She did about 10 days ago. They had followed the standard of care by trying to keep Leon inside Smith until 34 weeks gestation. But, she said, these things just happen sometimes. I don't think we'll ever know exactly why, unfortunately. Later, B got a call from Smith, who had recently woken up from general anesthesia. Snotty-nosed, crying, Smith told her she last felt Leon moving that night. B was confused. Smith had told her that Leon was moving more during the day and less at night. The call button was right there, B thought. If Smith felt Leon move, why hadn't she alerted the nurses? B and her husband arranged for flights to see their son's body. She emailed SAI. Could the medical records be ready when she arrived at the hospital? I didn't sleep, B said. I was contacting attorneys. Hogan, thank you for the gifted. Gobbledygook, thank you for the tier 1. Smith, meanwhile, had spent several hours in surgery. Placental abruptions are a major cause of maternal mortality. According to court filings, she lost a lot of blood and nearly died. This woman nearly died. Keep that in mind. Now awake, sliced through her core, she held baby Leon. He weighed 3 pounds, 12 ounces, almost exactly average for his gestational age. The child that she had carried for 7 months lay dead in her arms. What shocked B, when she arrived at the hospital, was the joy she felt with her stillborn child. Okay, are you guys fucking ready for this? He was a white boy, just like his dad. What? This woman is fucked. I'm telling you, the vibes, bad, bad, bad. The joy she felt with her stillborn child. He was a white boy just like his dad. He had light hair, a cut near his left knee, and hard-looking fingernails. B photographed Leon in a white gown and diaper, holding a blue crocheted heart. B would never know the color of his eyes. Yeah, so about the psychological evaluation they had to go through before the agency took them on. We sure we did that? We sure we got that psych eval done? A nurse told B that Smith was being discharged but wanted to speak to them. B said no. It was her time with her son before his autopsy. She did ask for a list of Smith's medications. 8 days after Leon died, Smith emailed V and Valdeglesias. She understood they might not want to talk, but her heart was breaking, thinking of them. I will forever carry the memory of your baby boy, she wrote, how his favorite place to kick punch was my right rib, and how he danced up a storm whenever Ed Sheeran came on. Back home in San Francisco, B felt empty. She wandered the sidewalks where she could have been pushing a stroller. Things were bad at home. She couldn't sleep, couldn't work. Instead, she dedicated all of her time to taking screenshots and organizing folders of evidence to wage a medical malpractice lawsuit. Are you ready for this part? She also hired psychics to give her answers. As she tells it, they all blame Smith. One suggested that an ex-boyfriend of Smith's had turned her against baby Leon. Another claimed to see traumas on Smith's belly and said she was clearly having rough sex. He warned she has something to hide. When Smith refused to release her medical records unless non-pregnancy information was redacted, B saw it as confirmation that Smith was hiding crucial details. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This woman is a fucking nut. She is, okay, I'm sorry, but just remember that when you're paying somebody like a psychic in a situation like this, they are telling you what you want to hear. So she goes to them and is like, it's her fault, isn't it? I bet it's her fault. And as they're taking her money and being like, yes, let me look into the cards. Yes, I see. Looks like she's been having a lot of rough sex. Clearly she's hiding something. B contacted SAI claiming that Smith had breached contract by not informing her about the insurance change on time, not taking her vitamins, and not alerting her before the C-section. Our contract specified a well baby that didn't die, she reminded them. B ordered the escrow to stop paying Smith or reimbursing her medical expenses. A few days later, B re-listened to the recording of the worst news of her life. She noticed a detail that she'd missed. Smith had bled 10 days prior to Leon's death. No one had told her. Crease, thank you for the 14 months. Barefoot Earthling, thank you for the prime. SAI countered that there was no documented bleed on the date in question, but clarified that there was some light pink fluid which the doctor was not concerned about. SAI said Smith asked the doctors to tell B directly, and that the contract gave Smith 2 weeks to tell B. That's emergency information, B said. She should have told me right away. If B had been told, she believed that Leon would be alive. She would have insisted on a C-section immediately. Remember that B is not a fucking doctor, by the way. So her being like, I would have insisted on a C-section immediately. You can't just do that. That's not how that works. Who the fuck do you think you are? It was a 3-pound fetus. Many stillbirth advocates believe that American doctors do not take the risk of stillbirth seriously, that the standards of care are often woefully inadequate, and that calculations about when to deliver a baby ignore risk factors. After losing a baby, women are often told, as B was, that these things happen. Stillbirths take about 21,000 American children per year, more than guns, car accidents, sudden infant death syndrome, cancer, and fires combined. Leon's death was 100%, 1,000% preventable, B told me, anguished. Searching for meaning, she started attending Epic Church, known for hosting high-profile VCs. At one discussion, participants talked about when God gives you a mission. B sobbed, I don't want this mission, I want my son. Upon reflection, though, she became hopeful. She thanked God for giving her trauma because he believed she could handle it. I will do my best to make sure it won't happen to other people, she promised herself. She would become her son's voice. I will make sure other unborn children are protected. So, yeah, sometimes medical malpractice is real, but a shit ton of times there is jack shit a doctor can do. Most times the cases get thrown out or not taken by lawyers. The problem is rich people like this woman who get lawyers and shit. Yes. So, also, what does this remind you of? We need to protect unborn children. The problem here is that advocates, and I'm putting in quotations, advocates like B are really just right-wing evangelicals who do not believe that mothers, who do not believe that the human being who is carrying the child, that their life matters at all. The only thing that matters is the life of the unborn child. That's what this comes down to. And for people who have money like B, well, they can actually cause problems here because they do things like file lawsuits. Wait, someone said don't scroll down. What is this? Okay, let me just skip that. Girls Love, thank you for the pride. Okay, Raziel, thank you for the 18 months. In her grief, B pieced together her version of events. And like, let me just say something too. If this were just a woman grieving the loss of her child, I would have empathy. I have empathy because that must be a horrible thing to go through, right? You are so excited, you're ready to start your life, but that's not what this is. And that's not who this woman is. In her grief, B pieced together her version of events. Her version of events. During the pregnancy, Smith had engaged in lots of unsafe sex. Yeah, she's just making shit up, by the way. Okay, this is about to get like really bad. A bout of forceful sex led to her leaking in mid-December. More sex eventually necessitated her hospitalization. Smith had let her adult-sized son sleep in her bed, where he'd probably kicked her in the stomach. Smith may have intentionally given birth early, mistakenly believing that she would receive full compensation. Also, just a reminder that her son is 7, and just a reminder, too, that her son is a biracial child. So if you are wondering, hey, this is starting to get maybe a little racially weird. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. At the advice of her lawyer, B hired a private investigator. A reverse address lookup suggested a man shared Smith's address, whose name B was sure had to be Smith's supposedly ex-partner. He was black. And the PI's report describing him as having been charged with 2 misdemeanors. B believed that Smith should never have been a surrogate with an undisclosed live-in boyfriend with #felony jail time record. Okay, I like that she put #felony and they were literally misdemeanors. She's not only an evil woman, she's also stupid as shit. #felony. Also, you can get misdemeanors for like anything, okay? #felony. He's a dangerous criminal. The PI dug up a flyer advertising a New Year's Eve party listing the man as one of the DJs, seemingly confirming B's lawyer's suspicion about what Smith had been doing the night before her hospitalization. What, you think she was out partying? You think she was out like drinking some champs at a New Year's Eve party? Because her ex is a DJ? B was ready to approve an in-person surveillance operation when another detail froze her blood. Smith had gotten a speeding ticket on a day she was inpatient at the hospital. As B would claim online on January 13th, Smith had snuck out with her son, gone 40 miles per hour in a 25 mile per hour zone, then snuck back into the hospital. The very next day, Smith had experienced profuse vaginal bleeding for at least 5 hours. In hindsight, Smith's behavior appeared weird and defensive. The day after the bleed, Smith had asked B to stop posting. Oh yeah, I'm sure that has nothing to do with the fact that B was posting inappropriately, that she was posting like medical and private information on Smith. Yeah, I'm sure that's not what it is, and it has to do with the fact that Smith is out here joyriding. That she is like, it's actually a conspiracy. Fiona, thank you for the 8 months. A prime sub away. A prime sub a month keeps them evil away. Did you also see this? Just dropping it here. Yes, I did. We started off by looking at that, but we can look at it again afterwards. Normally, I don't find myself defending DJs. However, in this case, I will make an exception. Oh, yes. B understood how far-fetched her allegation sounded. If it were not for all the hard evidence, it's too shocking to believe that Rebecca Smith did what she did to kill my son. B wrote on Facebook using Smith's real name. She used her fucking real name and posted this crack of shit, posting these really defamatory, just insane allegations. She's claiming that she tried to kill her son.
Month keeps some evil away.
She's just lying on the FB. Perhaps a kind friend could have suggested to B that there were other explanations. Instead, B had a set of legal adversaries and a supportive echo chamber. And don't forget the psychics. On Facebook, GCs and IPs alike expressed sympathy for her tragic posts. Everyone knew bad surrogates existed, and based on B's claims, it sounded like Smith was one. Amy A. Vizada, a Bay Area fertility doctor and influencer, called Smith a criminal and a psycho. I'm sorry, but I hate that. A fertility doctor and influencer. Kill me, please. B's $1,275 an hour lawyer, Elizabeth Sperling, wondered whether digging through social media posts might show Smith engaging in strenuous activity that could explain the death. B's husband focused on stabilizing the family, a move he credits with saving their marriage. He blamed the hospital, not Smith, but told me that Wait, you're telling me that her husband is actually not a fucking crazy person? You mean that there's actually a person here who has some semblance of being a reasonable individual, but also is like the litigation's her grieving process? Bro, you can't. No, you can't. You know that she's wrong. You know, wait a second. Hold on. This guy knows. He's like, it's not Smith. It's not the surrogate. It's not the surrogate, but I'm going to let my wife do this because she needs to grieve. Bro, he's like, please, I just need to be with my samurai swords. Please, just let me just be with my samurai swords. Please, I can't be a part of this. It's too much. I just need to be in my samurai cosplay. Please. Let me just do my feudal cosplay. He tried to stay out of the legal stuff so that B couldn't blame him too. Oh my God. It sounds like he is terrified of his own wife and he's like, please, I just want to study the blade. Please, I just want to study the blade. Smith had planned to go back to work shortly after giving birth. Instead, she couldn't stop bleeding. Yeah, because she almost died. Remember when she almost died and she's being accused of trying to kill this child and she almost died. Even though SAI had determined she hadn't breached the contract, the escrow stopped paying, leaving Smith reliant on disability benefits as she faced an increasing pile of terrifying bills. When Smith was finally cleared to return to work a month after Leon died, B emailed Smith's HR department to ask about her health plan. B also reported Smith to a federal agency, claiming that Smith was committing fraud. The stress on Smith was already high. Her supervisor at work had found her crying on and off for a day. Smith hadn't heard from B since her terse reply to the condolence email. Then B texted her a screenshot of a Facebook post about another GC who'd had an abruption at almost 32 weeks, but that GC had called 911 and the baby had lived. Next, B iMessaged a photo of Leon's corpse to Smith's 7-year-old son's iPad. This woman put this woman in a volcano. Please put this fucking freak in a volcano. That is about to erupt. That is so, there's this, I'm telling you, this story, it's one of those that it keeps getting worse somehow. You think you've read the worst thing, and then you go, oh, no. Oh, no. And remember, she told this to the journalist. Yeah. She broke the confidentiality clause so that she could speak to this journalist because this woman is so delusional. She is such a rich, narcissistic asshole that she literally looked at this situation and went, I'm the victim here. Everything that's happened, I am the victim. I'm going to tell my story, and clearly everyone is going to see what an evil, wretched bitch that Smith is. And guess what? That has actually not happened. And in fact, everyone is like, oh, B? Yeah, put rocks around her ankles and drop her in the ocean. In the months after Leon died, okay, are you ready for this? All right, ready? In the months after Leon died, B called the FBI 12 times, reported Smith, SAI, the hospital, and Clarity Escrow to more than a dozen state and federal regulators and numerous professional organizations, launched a new round of her $30 million venture fund backed by Mark Andreessen and David Sachs, President Trump's AI and crypto czar, on Leon's due date, posted Leon's ChatGPT written endorsement from heaven, offering his eternal blessings for her work, created TikToks, Instagram Reels, Facebook posts, X threads, LinkedIn updates, and a website for her advocacy. Posted Smith's full name, photo, employer, mortgage license number, son's first name, and a link to her address. Asked her husband again and again how it was possible that Smith had carried her son, but felt nothing about his death. I don't even know what the worst part is there. I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know. ChatGPT written endorsement from heaven, offering his eternal blessings for her work, doxing Smith, posting her son's first name. ChatGPT is always part of the crime. Oh yeah. Her $30 million venture fund with Mark Andreessen and David Sachs. Two awful, awful men. B has abandonment issues that she traces back to her 20s. Honestly, I don't give a shit. I'm sorry, I don't. A lot of people have abandonment issues, and they don't do this kind of stuff. Okay? Like, this is really one of those, like, sorry, I don't care. When her father divorced her mom for the mistress who'd conceived his long-awaited son. She got on lithium for her bipolar disorder in early 2021 and began looking for surrogates as soon as she stopped feeling sedated. I spoke to the therapist that B hired to consult with her and Val Iglesias. She told me that of the 792 intended parents she has evaluated for surrogacy or gamete donation in the last decade, she's declined to recommend only about a dozen. I'm not gatekeeping, she said. When it comes to serious mental illness, she added, it's up to them to disclose. One of B's fertility doctors, meanwhile, told me that it's not his place to scrutinize intended parents. He defers to the recommendation of the psychological interviewer. Do we see how many problems there are here? Are we already seeing how many issues there are in the commercial surrogacy industry? And the whole thing is about the person who's carrying the baby, right? All the concerns. If something goes wrong, it's on them. And we're not talking about the people who have paid for the surrogate. We're not talking about them. If an intended parent gets turned down, they can usually find another therapist, another clinic, another agency. But without anyone questioning her plans, B seemed betrayed by the challenges of third-party reproduction. Surrogacy is supposed to be the safest route, she wrote on Instagram. It wasn't just Leon's death that pushed B into her spiral of legal action and social media posts. It was the apparent lack of control of having her child inside another woman's body. The most basic fact of surrogacy. I'm sorry, you demon. You cannot have control over another woman's body in the way that you want to just because you are paying them to carry your child. And also, this was your fucking idea. Surrogacy is supposed to be the safest route? No, there are it doesn't matter that it's 2025. Pregnancy is still medically complicated. It can be dangerous. There's so many things that can happen. There's so many things that can go wrong. Miscarriages are so common. So many women who have had babies have also had miscarriages. Things like just anything can happen. And this is what it is. This is what it is. It's the lack of control over this other woman's body. Please read the AI baby Leon letter. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. My name is Baby Leon. Although I was born a sleeping angel, I speak to you now with love and care. Mama, as you launch Capital X Fund 2 on my due date 3/18/2024, may you soar to new heights, empowering entrepreneurs, making a lasting impact on this earth, and helping build a better world. Capital X is the embodiment of Mama's dedication and ambition, a symbol of Mama's hashtag resilience and determination to make a change through investment and hashtag influence. I offer my eternal blessings. Dada, your handsome looks and steadfast temperament shape my hashtag existence. I heard you and Mama cry and laugh next to me. Hashtag admiring how I looked 90% like you. My hair, forehead, eyebrow bone, nose, lips, chin, ears, and long feet. But look, I got Mama's wide hashtag hands. I'm forever grateful for your presence in my creation. Mama and Dada, as you hashtag mourn my absence, hold fast to the dreams you had for me. Know that those aspirations extend to Mira, your shining beacon of hope, your hashtag rainbow daughter. Mira, my dear sister, I wish I could have witnessed the attention and hashtag guidance that Mama and Dada would have bestowed upon us as we grew. Though I cannot experience it firsthand, I know they will shape you into the hashtag remarkable individual you're destined to become. Mama and Dada, as you cradle Mira in your arms, know that I am watching over all of you and showering you with my hashtag eternal love. Together you will weather life's storms, finding strength in each other's embrace and in the legacy we all continue to build. Mama, thanks for giving me a hashtag voice. Mama, thanks for hashtag birthing me in this special and meaningful way. With my eternal hashtag gratitude, your baby Leon. ChatGPT did 90% of the writing. Capital X's work is only getting hashtag started. I cannot believe these fucking comments. Oh, dear Angle Leon, even though I haven't met you yet, I can feel that you are a special boy in your parents' lives. What do you mean haven't met you yet? What do you mean haven't met you yet? This is not real. Angle Leon is ChatGPT. What's happening? What's going on? What are we doing? Oh my God. I am so disturbed and distraught on so many different levels. I there's just everything about this. That ChatGPT for a stillbirth that was through surrogacy, that the surrogate almost died, and now the surrogate has the devil coming after them. I am so hashtag concerned. I am so hashtag disturbed. Now imagine being the journalist and having to decide what needs to be cut for length from the article. Yes, because you know that B had even more than what's in the article. Like, this really is one of those, okay, well, she said a bunch of crazy shit, so I kind of have just to parse through. We're not even done. We're not even done with this article. Okay, continuing on. On Facebook, strangers started calling for Smith to rot in jail and lose custody of her son. She and her family feared online vigilantes would search out the woman that B portrayed as a profit-minded baby killer. Smith's parents bought security cameras for her car. Then Smith moved back in with her son's father, then moved again. She changed jobs, hoping to spare her small office the chaos. B contacted Smith's next employer too, saying that Smith had been fired for fraud and lied on her application. Smith's sister feared violence. Smith had suicidal thoughts. She wondered if her son would be better off if she were dead, if that meant that B would never send him another disturbing message. Oh, there's more. Oh, yes. In June, B sued Smith and the other parties that she blamed for Leon's death. When a judge ruled that B had to follow the original contract and do private arbitration instead of a public lawsuit, she spent $25,000 appealing the decision. One day at work in front of her new colleagues, a man served Smith papers naming B and Valdeglesias as Leon's parents. Smith's pro bono lawyer advised her to acknowledge the papers without realizing that B's lawyer, the husband of B's psych consultant, had added a section forcing Smith to release her medical records. After another court battle, the judge threw out that requirement. Whatever loophole existed, B would find it. If Smith relaxed, she would take advantage. The only goal she had was to destroy my life, Smith wrote in a court document, to get her fired from her job so she couldn't support her son, to have her behind bars, to bankrupt her, to make it so that Smith could never be at peace while Leon was dead. In the fall of 2024, B was served papers. Yeah. Get fucking wrecked, bitch. Smith had filed a restraining order. Smith maintained that she had been single and lived alone with her son, that she had never snuck out of the hospital. Nurses permitted her to go home to pick up an obscure vitamin that B had asked her to take. The doctors had advised her not to create extra stress by telling B about the minor bleeding. She'd asked SAI to inform B about it. Smith's supporters said that and also the thing is, there's nothing that could have been done. B thinks that she's like, oh yeah, I would have called for a C-section. You don't just get to do that. Just because that is your surrogate who is carrying your child doesn't mean that you come in and like make all the decisions. It doesn't change anything. It does not change. That is not your body. And that's not how medicine works. She'd asked SAI to inform B about it. Smith supporters said that after the stillbirth, she'd volunteered at the Ronald McDonald House for the NICU, sponsored a gold leaf on a tree for angel babies. It's Angle babies. Pumped and donated her breast milk to feed fragile babies in Leon's honor. B found these claims ridiculous. She kidnapped and killed my son. I am the victim here, B told me repeatedly. Being a single mom, she said, doesn't give you the right to kill another son. You don't have that victim card to play. She was almost screaming when she said it. B explains I like these little details that the journalist put in to remind us all that B is fucking horrible. I love that she's like, she was screaming when she said the words, being a single mom doesn't give you the right to kill another son. B explains over and over her belief that surrogates hold all of the power. That is literally not true, man. There are far more intended parents than surrogates, between 3 and 10 times as many, and IPs are, as B put it online, in such a disadvantaged position. You delusional wacko. That is so... And I just I keep reminding myself that this woman she's Silicon Valley. Like, she is a multi-millionaire venture capitalist tech vampire who gets funding from the likes of David Sachs and Mark Andreessen. This is a person who's like, I'm a victim. I'm in the disadvantaged position. The woman who can pay for someone else to carry her child, and then who can pay to try and sue her into an early grave. Yeah, that's who's disadvantaged here. On this episode of Rich Person Didn't Get Exactly What They Want. Once a GC has the embryo inside of them, they can harm the baby. Therefore, IPs are at their whim. B sees a model for surrogacy in the okay, here we go. Ready? In the anti-abortion laws that recognize and protect the right of a fetal life. The baby, she believes, should come first. B thinks that when doctors see surrogates go against medical advice, that they should report it to the police. B isn't anti-surrogacy. In fact, she frequently advises other investors who are pursuing it and sends me links to startup after startup. Sheil Monat, a venture capitalist friend of B's who has commissioned Twiblings, said the problem is that information is siloed when each agency has their own database of wombs. In this model, surrogates are the gestational equivalents of Uber drivers or Amazon warehouse workers. There should be a database of carriers allowing us to filter on what we want. Age, BMI, willingness to abort the fetus, Monat said. 6 months after Leon's death, B's daughter was born. In an Instagram announcement, B sits in a hospital recliner wearing a medical gown, clutching a newborn to her chest. B often compared her two surrogacy experiences. I had the world's worst GC and the best, and told me for months that everything with Chelsea Sanabria had been easy and smooth. Well, not quite. Sanabria told me she had a great relationship with B, but a pregnancy plagued with placental issues. Hold on a second. So these are two surrogacies now that had placental issues? First, gestational diabetes, then placental previa, where the placenta blocks the cervix, which led to a hospitalization and a scheduled C-section. When doctors removed the baby, they found that the placenta had grown too deeply into her uterine wall, a condition known as placenta accreta. Once they removed the placenta, Sanabria began losing blood. As a nursing student and patient care technician, she knew what was going on as they called out numbers of blood loss. Oh, but according to B, everything was perfect. Everything was perfect, even though she lost 5.4 liters of blood. But it was all great and perfect because she got her baby at the end. She would not have given two flying fucks if Sanabria had died. As long as she got her baby, that's all that matters. Let her lose every liter of blood in her body as long as the baby is put into B's hands. The weirdest part was being awake while she was dying, she said. An emergency hysterectomy saved her life. An emergency hysterectomy. Do you know what that means? That means she can never have children again. Do you know how intense that is? And to this evil woman, she's like, oh, my other surrogacy was perfect. I had the best GC and the worst GC. Yeah, you want to know what she considers perfect? An emergency hysterectomy. That's a perfect pregnancy, huh? She had to get her fucking uterus removed. She woke up 9 hours later, intubated in the ICU. A 2024 survey found that naturally conceived pregnancies carry about a 2% risk of several adverse maternal events. A surrogate pregnancy increases that to almost 8%. Oh, but according to B, who knows everything, surrogacy is supposed to be the safest way of having a baby. Safest for who? Safest for whomst? For whomst? For you? Yeah, okay. Nobody had talked to Sanabria about these risks. Now she posts online to educate other surrogates. Yeah, that's the other disturbing thing here. A lot of women end up becoming surrogates for, for reasons that usually speak to their vulnerable economic circumstances. It's a way to make money, especially in poorer countries that there is just so much exploitation. They just have the most disgusting names for these clinics that women go into and become surrogates. But the other thing too is that they don't tell you about these clinics, these places that women go to be employed as surrogates. They do not inform them. They don't tell them about all of the risks. Of course they wouldn't, because they need the business. Like, it is not some easy thing to carry a child. Even though a lot of obnoxious people on the internet will be like, what? Like, it's hard. Can't you just have a baby? Why don't you have 12 babies? Why don't you're 33 years old. You're washed up. You should have 15 children by now. Why do you think, let me just ask this rhetorical question. Why do you think so many rich people do surrogacies? Why do you think so many rich people pay for surrogates? Is it maybe because the stress on your body, the risks, the physical and psychological effects of carrying a child are something that these rich people don't want? And let me be clear, B tried to be like, oh, I'm 43, I'm too old. This is a very, very common thing throughout Silicon Valley. They are all using surrogates because they are rich and because they do not want to carry children themselves. They do not want to provide the labor because they outsource it like they do everything else. So, the whole thing where the richer you get, it's basically about just outsourcing labor. Oh, you don't want to have to grocery shop. Great. Somebody does that for you. You don't want to have to pay your bills. Great. Somebody does that for you. You don't want to have to carry a child. Great. You just outsource that labor. That's what being rich is. And the wealthier you are, the more that you can outsource every single thing in your life. So the only thing you have to worry about is just like enjoying the fruits of your wealth. You have other people to make you money as well. You can outsource making money to people that will make money for you. And then they pay people to cook and clean and raise their children and do all of that. Like, it's truly being rich. The reason that rich people just, yeah, it's a different world because of that ability to outsource everything. Think about your own lives. Think about how much of your day-to-day is like, oh, okay, I got to stop at the store, I got to do this, or I got to take care of this bill, I have these responsibilities, and then on top of that I have work, I got to go to the gym, I got to take care of my whatever it is. That is labor that you yourself are having to do. So that's why this whole surrogacy thing with wealthy people in industries like Silicon Valley is so nasty, is because it's just another aspect of outsourcing labor to other people and people who are in a position where they need money. So they'll do it. As B pointed out repeatedly in her quest to get Leon's placental slides, the placenta comes from the DNA of the biological parents, hers and Val d'Iglesias's. This is really important to understand because both of these surrogates had placental problems, medical problems that almost killed both of them. The placenta comes from the DNA of the biological parents, which is B and Val d'Iglesias. In fact, B's mother and sister developed diabetes while pregnant, an issue stemming from the placenta, and remained diabetic. Val d'Iglesias told me that his aunt had her water break early, but that everything was fine. But B and Val d'Iglesias' family medical histories were not disclosed to their surrogates. Oh, okay. So B is out here screaming about how Smith has, tried to kill her baby and that she's an evil woman and was hiding all this stuff from her. They did not disclose their medical histories. It is their biological child. It's their embryo. And this is normal. This is how the industry works. If B and Val d'Iglesias have a third child, they almost certainly won't disclose their pregnancy complications. So a surrogate has to just gamble because you don't know. You don't know if the parents, if whoever's biology it is that you are carrying inside of you has higher risk during pregnancy. You don't know. You might die. Imagine a journey being treated like a human incubator and not like a person. Smith wrote in a Facebook group for GCs. Imagine a journey where the intended parents leave you to pay all of the medical bills. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical bills are in Smith's name, which could wreck her credit. Smith's employer-provided insurance initially agreed to pay, but revoked coverage after B emailed them alleging fraud. This fucking evil witch. Now the plan that B bought isn't paying out either. B maintains that Smith is responsible. Just as B warned in a Facebook group, the bills could bankrupt Smith. During a Zoom hearing last December, B considered mercy. Perhaps Smith had suffered enough. Perhaps B had already achieved a form of justice. Inspired with grace and led by the ChatGPT voice of Angel Leon. Okay, that's not in there. I added that myself. B said that she made an offer. If Smith dropped the restraining order and allowed B to talk freely about her using her full name, B wouldn't pursue criminal charges. Smith's lawyer refused, so B contacted local police. In Virginia, police have investigated pregnancy losses and put a stillbirth mom behind bars. Oh, the United States of America. If that fails, B hopes to nail Smith for perjury based on the lies in her restraining order application. In order to avoid a permanent restraining order, B signed a court-enforced confidentiality agreement not to talk about Smith. But B now views that agreement as toothless. Oh, it appears nothing, not even the specter of being found in contempt of court, will stop B from sharing her truth. Though it's highly unlikely, B could even go to jail. There's an arrest warrant out for her in Virginia for doxing Smith. So far, B has worked with 9 different attorneys. She racked up almost $750,000 in legal bills in 2024, but paid less than half. The law firm where Elizabeth Sperling works owed $200,000, said it intends to initiate a proceeding. Her appeals lawyer, also owed $200,000, keeps threatening to send her to collections. Yeah, send her ass to collections. I cannot pay you because if I do, then I cannot get another lawyer, B explained. She needs the money to pay her next retainer. Lawyers never ask B about money. They see my profile and they assume I can pay. Oh, okay, so another privilege of being rich. Lawyers see her venture cap, Silicon Valley, tech person, and they're like, oh no, she's good for it. No, she's fine. But B tells me she's cash poor. Although B had an 8-figure net worth before Leon's death, most of it was illiquid stakes in companies. She has rent to pay, $10,000 a month, and childcare, her 6th live-in nanny. She has to withdraw her management fees for her investment fund much faster than planned. B hasn't worked much since Leon died, but she doesn't know how she can continue working as a venture capitalist if she backs down. If I cannot protect my son, B says, if I cannot give him honor, sue the hell out of these people, and have some sense of justice, how can the investment founders say, Cindi, you're the best? Just when it seemed like B might not be able to stomach or afford more lawsuits, she found someone who would represent her without charging hourly. Pitbull attorney Doug Rochin has the kind, open face of a Midwestern pastor. He's gotten 8-figure payouts for abused foster children and mistreated prisoners and specializes in sexual abuse cases. B says that Rochin will sue the doctors and the hospital for malpractice and pursue arbitration against Rebecca Smith, SAI, and the other parties in exchange for 40% of B's winnings. Meanwhile, B and her husband have been hunting for their 3rd surrogate. In the spring, B emailed with the biggest ask agency about a great surrogate profile, another single mother of 2 who lives with her parents. But she hesitated. Should she give her daughter a little sister or use the money to pursue justice for her son? I just can't pull the trigger, B told me. Not yet. So if things were good and right, B would never be allowed to use a surrogate ever again. If there were like laws to protect surrogates, this woman would not be allowed to use a surrogate again. Yeah, she is a villain. Now, one can only hope that she loses all her fucking money. That she loses all her money, that she can't pay for another surrogate, like prison abolition except for Cindi Bi. It's it's so astonishing. It just is so astonishing. And as I said, apparently there are people who've been commenting on this, and Cindi Bi has been popping up in the comments. Like, she not only spoke to Wired and said all these things, but she's now popping up in people's comments who are talking about it and being like, here's my cosplaying samurai husband. That is the horrifying story of Cindi Bi. And I think just more largely how wealthy women, how wealthy, not just women, wealthy people are outsourcing all of child labor, right? From the birthing, right? From carrying the child, from birthing the child to raising the child. That's all labor that they outsource to the poorer classes. And there is an entitlement that these rich assholes feel towards and over the bodies of those who they have hired to be, to carry their children for them.